So let's start with introducing yourself. Say your name, where you are working, and where you're at in your apprenticeship.
Okay, hi, my name is Hunter Cooks. I work at Bike and Metal in Kent, and I'm a senior in high school. And I'm probably about halfway through my first apprenticeship, so.
Hi, okay. Hi, I'm Anna. I'm a third period apprentice, or in my second year with carpenters, general carpentry, and I work with cell and construction on Seattle Children's Hospital in North Seattle.
I'm Evan Thomas. I'm actually a 2017 graduate of the Aerospace Joint Apprenticeship Committee. I'm currently a machinist with the Boeing Company.
My name is Derrick Jennings, and I'm a journeyman just leaving out of my apprenticeship with cell and construction.
So I'd like to start with Derrick. You share with us as much as you're comfortable with a little bit about your background, and then how did pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship really impact your life and where you are now and where you see your future?
The pre-apprenticeship, when I went to pre-apprenticeship, I was able to get the basis of what construction was. And after I passed that, I passed with a letter of recommendation to go to an apprenticeship program. And in my apprenticeship, Turner had came to the pre-apprenticeship, and they were looking for a person who can come up with the best letter on why you should work for Turner Construction. And so I did it on the whim, not thinking that I was going to win it, but I ended up passing it. So I had got a free apprenticeship to Turner Construction, and it was a challenge that I was up for. So when I started working for Turner, I had a lot of things within me that I had to deal with. I wanted to get there, I wanted to control and be the boss. I wanted to use the same method out in the street in a work environment, and I had to learn the hard way that it wasn't going to work. So I ended up getting laid off, and I thought that was the most horrible thing in the world to me at the time, because I wasn't used to, the hall finding the job for you. I thought I was going to have to get back out and shop around. So I ended up trying my luck again. I went back down to the hall, and they sent me out to cell and construction. And now, almost 5 years later, I've been with the same company, and it helped me to rectify what was in me. Regardless of what's going on in any situation, the total outcome is about what you're doing. So I had to learn that, in the midst of guys there was a big age gap. When you're dealing with people that's been in certain positions for 20 and 30 years, they have a different mindset on things. And I used that mindset to rectify what was in me, to bring out the best in me. And that was a wonderful thing, because I found it as being a wonderful thing for me to be able to use that to correct everything to me, to be punctual, to be responsible, to be in a argumentative situation, to shed light on it, and most of all, to persevere any task that I was given, regardless if it was hard or not, to get it done. And that's what made me stick around and to still be working with selling to this day.
Great. Evan, what do you think surprised you most about apprenticeship, and what would you tell people about to get them into it earlier and encourage them?
Well, what surprised me most about apprenticeship was the fact that companies are invested in you. They want you to succeed. I think a lot of people are confused by the fact if you're starting a new job and you're not as confident in your skills, you're worried about being put on something or being put on a task that you won't be able to accomplish, something you'll fail at. But it is in a company's best interest to make sure that you learn whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, to make sure that you succeed. And so that's what made apprenticeship very comfortable for me, and just made it so easy for me to accomplish, is because I knew that I was supported by the individuals around me. I knew that I was supported by the journeyman machinists that were next to me. They wanted to see me grow, because if I continue to grow and get better, that means I'm off their back asking them questions, right? So that's what was really surprising to me, and it just made it very easy and very comfortable, a very comfortable transition.
So Anna, Tell us a little bit about, I'm sure you've encountered people questioning you about apprenticeship. We still have some perspectives around whether or not it's a non-traditional career. I'm hoping that someday we're able to get the word non-traditional out of any career, whether it's males going into a career or women, that these are equitable and inclusive career opportunities. So what have you encountered, and how would you reach that culture change that our keynote speaker talked about, and go out and be a steward for your craft and show people that this is something anybody can do?
That's a great question. Thank you. There is a lot of stigma that I've experienced with people and their ideas around who is in construction and what it looks like. I've even had some of my own stigmas challenged. So when I'm on a job site, I meet all sorts of different kind of people who have different interests, and I think that's really neat, and that's not something that a lot of people might think about when they think of people on a construction job site. I don't know. When I'm in my personal clothes, I love having people ask me what I do, and I tell them I'm a union carpenter, and they're like, "No way, that's crazy," because they're like, "Oh, I thought you were in the arts, or I thought you were in this, or I thought you were in that." So I really love representing my trade and telling people about what I do, because I think that I've changed some opinions on who's a carpenter and what does a carpenter look like. And that's actually a theme that we had at our recent conference, Women Build Nations. And it's, like, what does a carpenter look like? Like, this is what a carpenter looks like. That's what a carpenter looks like. That's what a carpenter looks like. It's like, there is no stereotype that we fit into. And I think in this day and age, that's really changing. And I mean, I love what I do, and I think that anybody can do it. And, I work with some girls who are like 4'11", and I have people who say, "Oh, I don't think I can do that because I don't think I'm strong enough. I don't think I'm this enough. I don't think I'm that enough." And it's like, if you can show up and show that you're interested in learning and show that you're motivated to do what you're doing, that's all that matters. You don't need, big muscles or or any specific, physical attribute to get it done. Like, there's always ways that you can do things that are going to work for you. And if you can just show up and be there and be motivated and show a desire to learn, like, that's what people are looking for. And you're going to find somebody who's willing to work with you. I mean, I have every contractor that I have worked with hasn't been like the most positive experience, but I love where I work right now, and they treat me really well. It's a fantastic company, and they're willing to, give me opportunities and teach me, and that's been really, really fantastic. And I love what I do. Thanks.
So if each of you went back to when you were, in the K-12 system, in the high school system, we've got some people here who support that kind of opportunity to have some career and technical education. What would you tell a teacher or a counselor or people that were coming in tell you and help you to understand what the whole opportunities were post-secondary, and how could, what would it take to hear about apprenticeship that would have made you want to do that right away?
I guess I would have wished for a counselor or a teacher to just open up the opportunities, and let's get away from the stigma that you're a high school senior, so which colleges are you applying to? That was early on. After I graduated high school, I went out to Ellensburg, Central Washington, for 2.5 years, and I wasn't successful because I wasn't focused on a goal. I didn't know why I was there. I had friends that were going to school, and it was almost embarrassing that you were going to a CC or you didn't have plans. Like, that was embarrassing. You didn't want to talk to anyone about it. So you applied to schools and you just went, right? Mom opened up loans or you opened up loans, and then you're faced with dealing with that. And so that was the difference with apprenticeship, it was an actual goal that was placed in front of me. I knew what the end goal was. I knew what I was reaching for, and so it made it easier to come to work every day, to go to class, and be successful and focused on why you're there. I guess, yeah, I just want to touch on that. We need to make everyone aware of the opportunities. My story is not much different than hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals who are out there looking for the opportunity to be successful. I happened to come across the opportunity and was able to continue on and do a good job. But there's so many other people out there that are looking for something to do, but haven't been able to do it because they don't know about this. Looking at everyone in this room and the amount of people that are focused on spreading the word of apprenticeship and giving this opportunity to individuals is an amazing thing. As a high school student, if I would have seen something like this or had one of you reach out to me and tell me about what the opportunities were, then maybe I would have got on my path sooner than 26 when I did. So I really just want everyone to continue the work you're doing, because this is an amazing thing, and you're making differences in people's lives that you would not even know. I can be proud to say that since the age of 26, I've become a homeowner. I have, thank you. I have 2 little girls and a wife who I'm able to take care of. My wife is able to stay at home and take care of my daughters through the wage that I earn. And so that is all made possible by the work that each and every one of you are doing. And there are more people that deserve that opportunity as well. So continue it, and kudos to you.
I'm looking at more of a side that everybody is not going to come across and be able to be receptive at that time to what some other people might be, because there was challenges in my life that I had to get out of me first before I accept the role of going into a career. And I'm able to say that although I was up against the cares of the world and doing what I wanted to do, all that was working a necessity within me to make me better. And at my time, when you guys were around to give me the chance to go into a pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship, I had gladly accepted. But I couldn't accept that at a stage of when I wasn't ready to accept that, because then you can get some things and it's not your moment and you can ruin it as well. So I'm just thankful that the apprenticeship was around for me at the time when I got me out of me, so I can be able to gravitate what you wanted to instill in me.
So I haven't brought Hunter into this discussion yet because, full transparency, this is my son. You can't tell that we're related. He even dressed like me today. And I have 3 boys. He's the youngest. He's about to turn 18, and he's a high school senior. When I was raising my sons, people would say, "Oh my gosh, you're a mom of 3 boys. You are going to have a special place in heaven." And I'd say, "Yeah, it's the corner where I'll be rocking back and forth, pulling on my hair." But they were actually a joy to raise. All 3 of them have had very different career path choices and post-secondary education choices after high school. And if I didn't have this job, I don't know that I would have been able to support 3 different post-secondary choices the way I did. So one is in the IT field. He did Running Start, and he's got an apartment in Seattle that it's just this crazy IT world he lives in. My second son is at Washington State University. Go Cougs, yes, right? Almost. And he wants to be an electrical engineer. It will be over $100,000 to get him through that, and I'm sure that's not drinking money either. I don't know what this cash is that he keeps asking for, but, and then Hunter, who is more of a hands-on learner, so they each have very different styles of learning. They each have great strengths. And so when the youth apprenticeship opportunity came to his high school, I encouraged him to sign up for it. He really loves construction classes at high school and really likes the hands-on. So I have a couple questions for him. I think it's great that he's like, if you had asked me to speak in front of a crowd this big when I was his age, I think I would have crawled under the stage and you wouldn't be able to get me out. So I appreciate him being here to talk about the youth apprenticeship opportunities. So Hunter, do you like high school? Do you like going to school?
Yes.
Okay, let me rephrase that. Other than before class socializing, between classes socializing, having friends in your classes, do you like the lecture, read, test, repeat classroom learning?
No.
So you seem to really enjoy your apprenticeship classes. What do you like about that that's different, and how is that helping you learn? What do you like about that?
So in that class, we have these textbooks, right? But that's not really like, it's not the same as it would be in a normal class, because after we look at these blueprints and stuff in our class, I'll go to work after the day after, and I'll see on the Traveler for a project I'm doing, I'll see a blueprint with the same abbreviations, like all these decimal points that I would learn about in that class. So it's really applied learning, and I think that's pretty cool.
So what would you tell somebody, like again, we're talking about changing the culture, so for other, kids or people that have already graduated, what would you tell somebody about the apprenticeship and the on-the-job training part of it? Like what have you learned through that?
So I've learned to be part of a company now, and I have coworkers, and I've never had that before. I worked at a landscaping company, and I was just with my brother. So I mean, now you have to really respect your boss and your peers, and when you're at work or in this apprenticeship program, you really have to try to format a way around you want to do it too. So don't be scared to talk to your boss, or you just have to kind of go for it, and I don't know.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Well, I would like to get a job at, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I'd like to get a job at Boeing. I think that would be pretty interesting, and there's a couple people I know that have jobs there, and I feel like I could have a good inroad there, but it's just seeing the factory, just driving past it down in Renton. I think that's just pretty neat, and you can sometimes see inside, and it's just this huge factory, and they have a plane sitting in there. I just think it'd be a really cool place to work.
So how about the rest of you? Where do you see yourselves in 5 years, and what are your long-term goals?
Well, I definitely see myself journeying out of the general carpentry program, and I've always said that I really want to work for my union. I feel really passionately about organized labor, and I feel really passionately about our apprenticeship program. And while I love working in the field, and I definitely wouldn't mind if I did end up working in the field at all, because it's a lot of fun and there's a lot to learn no matter how long that you're working out there. I just feel really passionately about what this has brought into my life, this union has brought into my life, and the benefits that it continues to provide for all of our members, and just making sure that we have that in the future, because, I mean, it's changed my life, and I know that it's changed other people's lives, and I think that having unionized labor is extremely important.
So just like Hunter, I have someone very close to me who has dedicated a lot of her time to supporting workforce and supporting apprenticeship. And so, I don't know, I guess it was about halfway through my own apprenticeship, I sit back and realize, I say, hey, this is an amazing opportunity. You're getting $1.50 raises every 6 months. I had a lot of my coworkers who would have to go, ask, the boss for a 10 cents raise. I was going and telling my boss, give me my $1.50 raise, right? So that's pretty cool. And just, the opportunity to get a trade, get a career, a journeyman's card, something that can't be taken away from you. I discovered, this is amazing. So, my plan going forward is to dedicate myself to helping to do the work that you guys are doing and spread the opportunity of apprenticeship. And that was kind of my goal with getting to the Boeing company, was getting to a company large enough that could support me in wanting to help them develop their workforce. It's funny, when I came, I've been at the Boeing company here since July, so just about 5 months. But when I came in, I was in orientation, and they said, so at Auburn, where I'm at, 5,500 employees. 3,500 of those 5,500 employees can push a button and retire this second or within the next 3 years. That's crazy, right? So we need a huge influx of young, talented individuals to come and replace those people, and replace them now because they need to learn from those individuals who have been doing such a great job for the company. There's a reason why the company is one of the leaders in the world in terms of the work that they do. So me getting there, since being there, I've had the opportunity to meet with the executive director of Auburn, Jack Meehan, and he's been able to lend his hand in terms of mentoring me. I've talked that we had a manufacturing day where I was able to speak to students from high schools around the area about my experience in apprenticeship and what it's done for me. I was also able to speak at our innovation day about how developing yourself in terms of your career and your skills can help lead into future innovations in terms of better work and helping things get done better. And so I hope to continue on. Oh, I'm also part of the pre-apprenticeship collaborative. So I get to work with Shana and Lynn and go to high schools and to career fairs and spread the word of apprenticeship and tell my story. So I'm focused on continuing to develop my skill as a machinist and work as a tradesman and do that side of things, but also develop the future of the trades and manufacturing in the area. So that's 5 years for me.
I think for me, God has made a way for me to go to a number of places, but not all places you go might be good for you. So I stand and I wait and I watch, and there's one thing that troubles me in my heart, that we all want the dollar, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when we start compromising our morals for the dollar, then that's when things get in a disarray. But I would like to see myself in a position to where I can just instill the compassion and the love, into your fellow worker, because everybody can be a leader. Everybody can't be a leader, because being a true leader comes with being able to be reachable and teachable and to instill and to have compassion, so that when that individual runs off, guess what? He runs off with a piece of you. And if you don't mind looking at yourself, it's a wonderful work when you can instill in that individual where he can relay and he can work according to how others view you if you're a good worker. So I see myself in 5 years hopefully being able to bridge the gap and be able to be there to show compassion, in a position to show people that we need to get in touch with that in our inner self. And the world has taken that away from people, thinking that you have to be macho and hard and go for the dollar, but that's a false sense of hope. You hear me? And it's gotten the world in a disarray. So hopefully I can be put in a position to be able to help.
And I would like to say, from a parent perspective, I know there are a lot of, he's even encountered some family members who didn't understand what apprenticeship was and kind of were uncomfortable with the not choosing to go on to a college degree path, and how we can start changing the culture around that. Like I said before, we got to run a marathon. We got to start building capacity in our muscles to do that culture change and be a part of this movement. And sometimes it means convincing parents, fathers, grandparents, brothers that what you're doing is just as valuable as going off to a college. So the other key piece of it that I think sometimes when people are a little nervous about putting younger people into these jobs is that beyond the technical skills, the key piece from what every single employer and every single industry says is that they need people who have employability skills. That, more than anything, is what Hunter has been learning. I mean, he has to show up early. He has to be a good employee. He kind of talked about that. He's learning what it's like to be a coworker and work with other people on his team and take direction from his boss. And there just aren't that many teenage jobs left anymore. around us, even the fast food restaurants, it's not teenagers, it's adults doing those jobs. So, you know, he's not only coming away with some technical skills, but more importantly, really learning how to be a good employee for whatever his future holds. So I don't want us to lose sight of that piece of bringing younger people into these opportunities as well. So I forgot my cell phone, so I'm not sure where we're at on time. Do we have time for some audience? Okay, so do you want to take some audience questions? So in your high school, do the counselors show you any opportunities for apprenticeship, what it takes to get into an apprenticeship program, or is it all college application time? And your post-secondary plans, do they help you understand that there's something besides the four-year college track after high school?
I would say that the counselors are more focused on colleges, like four-year colleges, and getting every kid, like that's their goal, is to go to some like really expensive college or whatever. But no, I think it's more like, it's kind of the people that I feel like understand it. Like my construction teacher is also my apprenticeship class teacher, and I feel like it's people like him that really understand that this is just as good too.
And just to clarify, this is his senior year, which it equates to my year of tears, which all three of my children have really enjoyed that part of it. But it does take, you know, as Evan was saying, we have an ambassador program, so Evan participates in that, and he goes out and he's a steward, and he'll go to high schools and talk. And then there's career fairs. I think getting these kids the opportunity to do some of the hands-on stuff's really key too, just to give them a taste of what that's like. But, you know, this is what we're struggling with in order to change the culture. We need to figure out how to get this information down. And I have to say, I'd like to put a challenge out to the HR directors for companies. When you go look at jobs, a lot of them say minimum requirements for your degree. So it's very hard to convince people that that's not an item that everybody needs for the security reason, something to fall back on. So, you know, there's a whole nother section of people to convince that that's not always the case.
Oh, I just wanted to add on that. I'm 23, so I didn't go to high school too long ago, but I actually didn't end up graduating, and school was not something that I felt like was for me. From a pretty young age, I knew that I didn't want to go to college, and when I was in high school, I went to high school in Seattle, and there was no alternative routes other than college that were expressed to me. And nobody said there's other options. It was like, well, go to college or get a job where you can maybe work your way up, and 10 years you can become a manager or something like that. So there was no real other options that were expressed to me. And I didn't know about apprenticeship until I think I was about 21. And as I was looking for something that was gonna, you know, make me good money, and I wasn't gonna be struggling anymore, making, you know, minimum wage, part-time hours, and I was just so tired of struggling and trying to make ends meet. And I found which is an amazing pre-apprenticeship program, and it was just kind of luck that I found it, but I know there's a big push to get apprenticeship and, you know, career. I know that the carpenters in specific are working on career connections in schools and getting that into schools. And I think that's so, so important, because there's a lot of people that feel the way that I felt and have not wanted to, you know, be in the box or whatever you want to call it. And it doesn't work to sit in a class and think about going through another 4 years of what you're doing right now and paying, you know, $100,000 for it. A lot of people, that's not a financial option. It wasn't for me. And I'm really happy that I found apprenticeship, and I think that getting apprenticeship into schools is really important, and just advertising. I mean, just advertising what we do is really great, and I love telling people about what I do and how much money I make, not because I want to brag, but because I can be like, hey, like, you can do this too, and you can start out with no experience, and it's an option for you. There's more out there.
We have other questions?
Okay, besides recruitment, retention is like huge in keeping our apprentices in the programs that are in the programs. So I'm just wondering what you all are doing as peer mentors to help encourage apprentices that are in the programs to help, them stay in the programs and be involved.
One of the things that I love to do is I love to go back to the pre-apprenticeship, and I like to be there just to make the emotional connection, like I was saying, because that's obviously is what is going to keep them. Like it says, the race is not given to the swift, but those who endure to the end. So now the swift have taken off, and they can't go past anywhere because they have to get the people that can make the emotional connection, and we can walk over together. So I love going back to them, and I love just being there to instill in them and let them know that it's okay. You're going to go through things. You're going to falter. That's a part of growing up and being grown, is to make mistakes. If we never made mistakes, then we wouldn't be nothing at all. So I like to go back and, encouraging them and strengthen them in that way, because that's ultimately what's the only way that can sustain them. Because if you have problems, you have problems. And if I'm there to even help you, to lend or to hear or to encourage you, if I see that you are making the necessary steps to do good in your life, ain't no telling, you might have everything in my pocket, because I want to see that manifest.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump right on top of that. I think the biggest thing is just seeing people who are at the end of their journey, seeing someone who is successful, seeing someone who has made it where you want to make it. Before we got started today, I had the opportunity to sit and meet Hunter and talk to him about my experience. And I told him, I said in 2012, I didn't even know what a machinist was. Like, all I knew is they went on strike and they made good money. Like, I didn't know what they did. I had no idea. Like, because if you think about it, that term machinist, that's very vague, right? What, like, you have a machine? Right? But to tell Hunter my story and to tell him that I made a 5-year plan starting at the very beginning. I was in class with people who, grew up in the garage with Dad. Dad had a lathe or a mill, and so it was an obvious bridge to this career, and me starting very green, and to make it 5-6 years later to where I plan to be, is something that Hunter can look at and be like, oh, this is definitely a possibility, and for me to tell him, hey, if you want to come to the Boeing company, I can help pave that path. I can help you take the same exact route that I took and support you in that journey. His face lit up, because that is opportunity right there that's being passed on to the future. And so that's something I hope to continue to do, and continue to be in the high school, speaking to people, telling them my story, and telling them the journey that I went on. Because like I said earlier, there's a lot more people whose path is just like my own, and they're just looking for opportunity and a light at the end of the tunnel. So.
I definitely agree. Retention is really important, and I really like being involved in my union and kind of going through that aspect, and I've made a lot of really amazing friends and relationships with people that I hang out with outside of work or events or anything like that, and call on a regular basis and talk to. And I think that I agree that emotional connection is really, really important when you're having a hard time at your job site or whatever you're doing. Having somebody to call and talk to about what's going on is super important. And I actually do an ambassador program with our union as well. So we go out to schools, and that's more of the outreach. But I actually just got a motion passed at our last local meeting to start an apprenticeship meetup at our local, where apprentices can just get together, and it's by apprentices for apprentices. And I have a lot of really big ideas for what we can do throughout the meeting, but hopefully we'll have some connection to just talk to each other. And if somebody's having a problem, then they can call me or somebody else who's further in the apprenticeship as well, to just have somebody to talk to. That's really important. Thanks.
And full transparency, Evan's mother is Marie Bruin, who's been a longtime champion of apprenticeship, and she happens to be my mentor. So how serendipitous is that now Evan is mentoring my son? It really takes a whole village.
As you're in your apprenticeship class, what does your day look like, and compare that to some of your other classmates? I know you also work, right? And so that's unique necessarily from your classmates. So I'd like to hear about your day and what your school year is like.
Okay, so basically I have a 4-hour apprenticeship class every Thursday, and that's with one of my coworkers who's also in the program. His name's Connor, and then there's a couple other kids that go to Hazen in there who also have jobs, but I don't know where at. But so that's the class that I'm taking with the program, and then basically I have my 5th period knocked off, so I get off school early and I'll go straight to work. And I think that's what happens with all the kids in the program, is that they get off school early to go work and earn these college credits alongside of it too. So I think that's kind of like one of the neatest parts is that when you're working, and then Thursday you go to this class to get your college credits, and it's just all comes together in the end. It's pretty sweet.
Are there other jobs or kinds of companies that you think would be appropriate for this system, or that you wish had been available to you when you started your apprenticeship?
In my mind, every career needs to be an apprenticeship. I mean, I don't know. I haven't graduated college and gone to a job after, so I don't know that route. I don't know what it was like for everyone. But if you think about it, you're going and learning book stuff and, all that stuff, right? And then you go to your job, and then you learn your job. You have to learn it on the spot, right? Or you're expected to know it and do a good job. But in apprenticeship, you're learning as you're going, and when you graduate, you are an expert. And you can do your job at a high level. I don't see how that couldn't work in every single career that there is, like even ice cream testing.
I thought for me, in my position of being an apprentice, the construction industry is a high, fast-paced job. So I wasn't able to get, what I needed to get to be like these studs, you know what I mean? But I was able to look at what the studs were doing, and I had an ability to, every time that you vibrated that concrete, I see myself doing it. And I knew what to hear for. You hear me? To know if I was in the mud or if I wasn't. So I used, these other individuals, although it was them that was doing it, but I took what they were doing and I put myself in their shoes. So that made me receptive to who I was around. So I didn't block you out or him out or him out. I listened to everybody, and all the good I took and all the bad I discarded. And being able to, after my 1,000 hours was up, to be able to run up to Kingston and to be able to get that knowledge as well, and go more in depth to what I was hearing or what I was seeing, and that all, it helped cultivate me into, the person that I have become in the field. It helped, it really did.
So one of the things that I know the K-12 system struggles with helping people, there's lots of great people in the K-12 system that want to get these opportunities in front of students, but apprenticeship, each one is very different, and when you can apply and when you can get in. So can you tell us a little bit about that process for you guys and what you would tell somebody? Like, does it take perseverance? What do you do to make sure that you get into the apprenticeship program that you want? Like applying for it and going through the interview process, and what advice would you give for people on that?
When I came into the union, it wasn't a super long wait. I put in an application, and then they'll schedule you out for an orientation, and then after your orientation, you'll get a score from your orientation, and your orientation is, physical, hands-on. You have to learn how to read a tape measure and how to do some pretty basic math, which I had to study just because I hadn't done it in so long. It was, addition, subtraction, long division, multiplication. So it was just stuff I hadn't done in like 10 years. And I had to kind of go back and refresh on that. And, pushing around a wheelbarrow, just some pretty basic physical stuff. And once you get your score in your orientation, they'll come back, or they'll give you your letter in the mail and give you a score and then send you back for an interview. So I think the total process from when I first put in my application was about 2 months to when I got in. And what I can say about when you do it is just go above and beyond every expectation and every requirement that's set for you, even if you are not you're not the best at hammering nails. One of my instructors in my orientation said, I can teach anybody how to do that, but did you show up early? Did you wear the proper gear? Did you follow instructions? Did you did you do everything that we asked you to do, and did you have a positive attitude while you were doing it? Great, then you're going to get a good score. And can you do some math? That's important too. But, like when I went to my trade orientation, I showed up really early. I stayed late to help. I practiced the things that I wasn't good at after everybody else left, and I got a really good trade orientation score. When I went to my interviews, I actually went and I got packets for every single person that was at the table. They had my business card. They had letters of recommendation from the pre-apprenticeship program I went through, and several other people that were involved in my pre-apprenticeship career or whatever. And I had my resume. I had all of this stuff together in this packet, and I actually had like a photo book portfolio of stuff that I'd done in my pre-apprenticeship, as well as some like labor work that I'd done before I got into the union. So they actually asked me to come and go up the hill and get my drug test and just sign paperwork right away instead of going through the kind of normal process that they have people do, which I love telling that to people. Again, not because I want to brag about what I did, but because all you have to do is show up and do the extra step and go the extra mile, and you're going to have people respond to you really well. I've went out and hustled multiple jobs with that kind of material. The company that I work for right now, they were really slow on work. They actually weren't hiring anybody, and I started working with them because I showed up with that kind of stuff. So if you go out and you do the extra mile and you go above what people expect you to do, then people are going to say, wow, I've never seen anybody put in this kind of effort. Like, we want you here. Like, we want you to do this. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
To piggyback on that is that we got a lot of people that are at various different stages in their coming along. So to me, I would think it would be good to always start at the bottom, because starting at the bottom is important for when you get to the top. So to start at the bottom and be able to just send people amongst the pre-apprenticeship to be able to make that connection with all these individuals, because you have people that are in place that come from those various backgrounds that are able to be there to make that connection, because you might have a classroom with 50 students and you have one instructor and he doesn't have time but only to convey the curriculum that's in front of him. But a step, and an important step, like I was saying earlier, is you need people that they can call on when they go through these stumbles, and then you need people that have been through those stumbles that can be able to help them along through them. And that's what will ultimately keep them. When they got nobody they can call on, when they got nobody that's really concerned about, what they're going through, people tend to stray and look for, the crowd that will hear them. We'll be there to do that.
Evan, anything to add?
I just think you need to be focused. You need to do your part and do the research. I mean, there's so many opportunities and there's so many different careers that apprenticeship is offered in right now. So you need to do your part and do the research and find out what it is that you want to spend the next 4 years and possibly your rest of your life doing. Seems like that sometimes, but I hope not. But yeah, just do the research, know what you want, and then stay focused. And some of the waiting lists are long and some aren't. But just stay focused on what you want. Make sure your prerequisites are taken care of, and do a good job doing that.
And Hunter, do you have anything to add? I know you kind of learned when you were going on tours how to interact with employers and try to stand out from the crowd. So what did you learn on that?
Going on the tours was pretty interesting. You have to basically just know what's right and what's wrong. You have to make, like, I don't know, when I went on the tours, I just tried to make as much eye contact as possible, basically, because I know that's kind of a thing they look for, and just, like, don't be, I don't know, I just tried to, like, stand up straight and just look like a good person.
All right, well, we are at the end of the time for this session, so let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you, guys.